Friday, isn't it? Yeah, the week has dragged on. I'm so excited to be here because I'm so proud of what Millie and the team do at the British Beauty Council. It's so important to our industry, and they have really transformed the way that beauty is seen globally, really. So, you know, they do a great job. And what we're talking about, as Millie said, is so important too, because social media is just a place of craziness, but also information, and as long as the right information is getting out, that is what we all want. So, Millie just mentioned what the Creator Collective is, but Ali, do you want to talk in a little bit more detail about it?
Yeah, of course. Who's that? Yeah. So, we're a leader in the beauty industry, and when we started working with influencers, we just realized we had a big responsibility for sort of a resource, basically, that our talent could go to when they're talking about some of our products that are a little bit heavier on the science side and the ingredient side. So we partnered with the British Beauty Council and we formed the Creator Collective. We launched in 2022, so Zak was in our first cohort and Elise was in our second, and we'll launch our third in January. And the idea was to have like an incubator program. So we worked with micro-influencers, and at the time when we launched with 10, and the idea was that they would work with us in creating content for the year, and in return we would provide a science skincare module education program that they would have access to, so that when they were developing their content, they had a resource to go to sort of fact check anything. If an audience member of theirs had a comment, they could refer back to that resource and fact check that. They had access to our derms who work with us at Number 7 and at Boots. So it was really about sort of stepping up to the responsibility we had as a business for our consumers, but also to really upskill the influencers we were working with.
It's such a genius idea and something that was so needed. And Zak, we heard you were the OG. You're in the first one. Yeah. How did that make you feel being part of that when you were starting with the influencing side of stuff? Yeah. Was it really supportive?
Yeah, no, it was really good. So I started, it was a year and a half ago, I think, maybe even 2 years ago. I was a lot smaller then, and it was really nice when I first started. I didn't really know much about, like, I knew my skin type, I knew how, like, I knew what works for me. Oh, that's working, okay. I knew what works for me, but it was, like, I needed to know more and like, educate myself more about, you know, like, how I can help other people with, like, their skin types, when they're, like, asking me to, you know, like, what works, like, when people are asking me like what products they should be using, or so yeah, it was really good for that.
It gave you the confidence to basically be able to answer the question correctly, because I think that what happens out there is a lot of people then make up the answer, and when that misinformation goes out, obviously that, particularly when it comes to skin, it can actually dramatically affect someone's skin, then their confidence, etc., and then the industry. So important. And Elise, you did the last one, right?
Yeah, I joined in 2022. What was it?
2023.
This year.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's and I'm actually a skincare nerd, but I found it really hard to retain information whenever I'd read books about skincare. So I found the video modules just so helpful part of the course. And yeah, like Zak, it helped me to inform my community a bit more. People with different skin types to me came to me and asked me for help, and it was also, it just felt so empowering to be able to do that and help people on their journey.
Yeah, it's so important. And do you find that you go back and refer to it a lot now as well, still?
We still have the password, so we can go back.
They're not locked out.
So if I need to get back, I can.
That's great. So Ali, is it about 30 people in total so far?
No, so the first cohort was 10 and the second was 7. And TBC for our third cohort launching in January, how many we'll have, we're still in planning right now. So yeah, 17 in total.
That's exciting. Yeah. That's exciting. Okay, so you've all both worked as content creators. Obviously, Ali, you've worked with content creators, and I think that there's a lot of change happening now, but also there's a lot of balance that you have to make, because a lot of the time there's other things going on. I think the misconception is that when you're a content creator, that is the only thing you do. Like, my full-time job is a makeup artist. That's what I do for 50 hours a week and then fit everything else in. Zak, you're at university, juggling all of that. At least you're a mum. Like, how do you guys do it?
So I'm actually on my year out at the minute, so that's why
I'm
But last year I was up. I'm still up until 2 every morning, but last year I was up until 2, 3, crying constantly. So, I found it really hard to juggle it. I still find it hard to juggle, and I've got to go back next year because I graduate in 2025. But
what are you studying?
Fashion journalism at Central St Martin's. So
Well, that's pretty mega. That's pretty mega.
So that's another reason why I'm staying, is because I tried so hard to get in, and I would feel like I'm doing myself a disservice if I just dropped out. So I need to persevere and get through that. But then also now, whilst everything is like on its high with like social media, where like I'm getting all like I'm working with all these brands, like doing all these like photo shoots. I'm really glad that the year out came now and it wasn't last year, or I'm glad I've got my year out now. So that's how I can juggle it.
And what about you, Elise, being a mum? Because obviously that's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, she's very active as well. So I'm very conscious of not being on my phone too much around her. So it means that the time that I am on my phone, it's very concentrated time. I check out all my favourite content creators, my favourite brands, look at what they're doing. But I'm also, I share a lot on my Instagram, but I'm also mindful that why people started following me in the first place. So I still try to give, a bit of transparency on me as a mum, but also still sharing my skincare content and
getting the balance.
Yeah.
And Ali, with the Creator Collective, is there an expectation of how much time the guys should be spending learning, or is it ongoing?
So the modules, it's sort of like it's in their own time, but the idea is that they complete it by the end of the year. And then it is a reference point, and it's not just for the brands within our portfolio, it's for any skincare brands that they're working with. And I think that was like a really big part of why we wanted to do it in partnership with the British Beauty Council as well. It was about access to information about all skincare and ingredients, and that applies to if either of them are working with our competitors.
And why is it so vital at brand level as well?
I think we said it a couple of times, it's a misinformation that's out there, and we just really felt like there was a responsibility we had, and it was also to give our creators that sort of empowerment, but also we didn't want anybody to feel lost when they were talking about, the creative briefs that I'm sure you get for whatever project you're working on. They can be super lengthy, but sometimes you just need a bite size of what retinol is, and to make sure you're not applying it in the sun and making sure you're putting your SPF on, and just a few little nuggets like that. And some of our creators are actually more they're more makeup artist led, they're more artistry led, so it was also to help them when they were talking about skincare that they also had that reference point. So I think it was more our responsibility as a business, but also we work with lots of creators outside of the Creator Collective as well, and it was showing that we were stepping up, and we wanted to like take accountability basically with it.
And talking about accountability, I think when it comes to working with brands as well, I think it's so important, the authenticity side of it. And I think it's changing now actually, but I think that for a long time it was very difficult for the consumer to know who to trust when they were talking about brands, because if you're just like, well, I'm just going to take the money, actually I don't even use that product, that I think is now very obvious. How do you guys go about picking brands to work with?
I feel like on both sides you've got to be ethical and authentic. Like if the brand, if the brand can see that you've used their product a lot, so like I'll always tag, like if I'm not working with a brand, I'll always tag the product obviously for you guys to see what I'm using, but also the brands can see that, I'm actually using their products organically without, getting paid for it. And I think like if brands, want to work with me because they can see that, I enjoy and I love the products, then I instantly will work with them. But I think if I've never used a product before, I don't like it when brands, reach out to me being like, we're going to send you a product, I want to work with you for like a paid collab, because I'd rather try the products first and see what they're actually like. Because I made the mistake when I first started, and I did that, and the products, the skincare actually made me really red and irritated, and the contracts were already signed. So since now, from then, I've now always tried the products before I've promoted them.
And I've got to say that is such a responsibility of the brands, and it's something that frustrates me a lot as well, that brands reach out to you and give you a deadline, not all brands, but they do sometimes, and say, oh, we need this in a week. Well, hold on a minute, if it's skincare, you need 4 to 8 weeks to test it. But I'm not talking about anything if I haven't tried and tested it. And that is so true. But I think there's still so many people out there that are just doing it for the money, and that I think that needs to come in as an ASA law, to be honest with you, that there needs to be at least 4 weeks to test products. I think with
makeup you can test it out on the day,
yes,
or
completely.
The day before,
yeah.
But with skincare you definitely need that time to see how your skin reacts overnight or for a week or something.
Yeah. What about you, Elise?
Yeah, brands have the responsibility to make sure that you know, they're giving you that time to test it and trial it. They want an authentic response from us as content creators. I think also for me, seeing clinical trials, seeing the efficacy of the products, how they work, how they've done over the past few weeks, years, months. But also another thing that's really important to me is I like to look at who brands have been working with. Diversity and inclusion is very important to me, especially as a brown girl in the industry. So I like to see who they've been working with, who they've been involving. And also that they genuinely like my content and how I create content. I like to come up with creative solutions with the brand and suggest maybe I could shoot it this way or that way, because at the end of the day, if my audience don't resonate with it and I just put out this ad and they're like, what is this that Elise has done? This is so different to everything else she does. It's not going to perform for them, for me. So I'm putting the audience at the forefront as well.
And they have to trust you that you know your audience better than anyone.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read this word for word. It's one of Millie's famous statistics, I think, here. Hold on. So, according to the Value of the Beauty Report 2023, I told you, 60% of marketeers in the US, UK and Germany agreed that influencer marketing has a higher return on investment than traditional advertising. With social and advertising changing so much, do you think content creation will continue to come out on top? Ali, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, influencer marketing will always be a part of our advertising matrix at Boots, at a number 7 beauty company, and it's as important, depending on the brand, it's as important, if not more important, than other channels that we've invested a lot in over the years. Ways that it is changing for us. So, you know, as a brand, we shoot our own content. You know, that's in a lot of like our marketing campaigns. And one thing that we've really pivoted over the last year is we're using a lot of influencer assets in our ads instead of our own content, for a lot of different reasons. The most important is that it performs incredibly well because it's authentic and it's user generated in style. So we have really adapted that. And then second to that, we've actually hired 3 content creators full-time as part of our in-house agency at number 7 beauty company. The first one starts on Monday, and the idea is so that we have really quick content. You know, it's a very fast-moving, our social's very fast-moving, and so yeah, the 3 of them are going to work full-time for us to create content. So those are 2 ways we're adapting.
That's really exciting,
Yeah.
I think, isn't it? And a really smart way for the business to look at content creation as well. And with you guys, I mean, what do you expect from the future of advertising? Because I think, again, everything is changing. And how do you think you're going to adapt your content to this?
When it comes to like me personally, I don't know how I feel like my content has stayed consistent since I first started. And I feel like if I was to change how I create something now, I feel like it comes across as quite like, not inauthentic, because obviously it's my content, but I think like people followed me for the content that I was creating when I first started. So like obviously the beauty industry content creators are always changing, but I think if you started, you know, a few years ago and you're creating like the content that I'm creating now, then I need to stick with that. But obviously there's always new trends, like the trends are always like changing every single day, so I can always do something different. But the way that, like if you haven't seen my videos before, they're quite editorial looking, and I need to stick with that, and that's what works for me. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I personally love trend forecasting, and I enjoy seeing, you know, we were on the trip a few months ago in number 7, we're talking about the trends that were coming up, and it's like fashion, you know, you pick the trends that work for you and that are relevant to you, and I enjoy peppering that within my kind of evergreen content that I already do.
And then at least I suppose people know what they're getting as well when they come to you as well. Okay, so AI. I was just actually talking about this. Very barefoot. It's such an interesting one because we don't know how that's going to look yet. I mean, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Was it a Drake song that like got in the charts? It wasn't even him. Like, it's mad. So we're seeing it in content, we're seeing it in written, we're seeing it in images. How are number 7 approaching this as a brand when it comes to the social influence and content?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so exciting. I think we are embracing it cautiously, as I think a lot of businesses are. And I feel like just to caveat, we're not replacing any influencers with AI at this stage anyway. But the way that we're working with it at the moment is probably less on the influencer side and more on the content side as a business. However, we do have a new platform that we're working with, Creator IQ. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with it. And they are actually implementing AI for some vetting processes as part of their sort of searching for influencers, just making sure they're authentic. So that's really exciting, and I think it's nice for us to know that our partners are also embracing it, but for good and like, you know, in innovative ways. But yeah, no replacing of anything, more optimizing, I'd say, is how we're working with it at the moment. Yeah.
And what about you guys? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, AI really scares me. I'm only 20, and I feel like I'm in that generation where everyone's using AI. Like one of my, when I was there last year at uni, one of my projects was to use AI to do like a podcast. And I feel like it's, you know, it's giving jobs, but it's also taking away jobs. And I wonder how people, like journalists, for instance, can like, you know, you can now have like platforms where these AI things, like people, robots can like write for you. And I think like when it comes to content, you know, I feel like there'll always be creators because nobody wants to know that like they're watching, you know, like a robot or like somebody who's AI. But when it comes to like journalists, I wonder what will happen for them because, you know, yeah.
No, it's true. It's so true.
But I think creators will always be there, definitely.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And Elise, obviously you've got a young daughter, right? How do you feel about it for her future? Because that generation coming up, it's almost probably going to be the norm.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite excited about it, to see where it goes. I think on the smaller scale of AI, we've seen a lot of D2C, so a lot of direct-to-consumer AI marketing, whereby a lot of brands are creating platforms where you can then receive a personalised skincare routine or makeup that completely matches your shade as opposed to going into a store, and I think that's really exciting. And the way I'm harnessing it in my content is actually using those platforms and showing how well or maybe not well that they're working. I received a foundation the other day and I was so surprised at how well it suited my skin tone by using AI. So yeah, I'm quite excited. I'm not sure how I feel about my daughter playing with phones in the future and trying it out. Maybe it won't even be a phone, maybe it'll be some sort of rocket ship. But yeah, overall I'm quite excited about it.
And back to the Creator Collective. I mean, your answer better be yes, obviously, because would you recommend it to people?
No.
Actually not.
No, I actually really enjoyed it, and like I was saying earlier, it was good for me as I did it from the very beginning to like learn about, you know, like skincare. Like people always come to me and ask about like acne products. I don't have acne, I've never had it, so therefore I always felt really, it just felt unethical for me to give advice about acne products if I've never had it myself. And I still don't, and I'm still wary about like giving advice, but at least now I can, you know, give something back. And that was through obviously doing the Creator Collective, I'm able to do that. Because obviously you can read books, as you were saying, but I'm more of a visual learner, and all of the videos are videos. And as well, like there's images, and that sticks in my brain, and words really don't. So yeah, it was like visually, it's also really good.
Great. What about you, Elise?
100%. I mean, basically the same as Zak.
Yeah.
Definitely recommend it to anyone, and just empower people to understand their skin type and what to use and buy. And also, if you are following anyone that's part of the cohort, like really pay attention to their content, because you know it's well informed.
And Annie, what are the future plans for the Creator Collective?
So cohort number 3 is in the works at the minute, and we're just planning what that looks like. And you know, it's really evolved since the first cohort. I mean, it stayed true to its core, but we really want to like optimize and change and evolve in a really positive way. So yeah, I can't say too much, obviously, in terms of revealing who anybody is, but watch the space. And you know, we work really closely with the British Beauty Council on what it looks like as well. So there's a lot of great minds that go into shaping what it's going to look like. So yeah, watch the space.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much. We've now got time for some questions. If anyone has any, I'll pass you the mic. Oh yeah. If you haven't, don't worry. But so we've got a question over here. Yes. Might not need the mic actually. That's okay. Shout it out.
Shout. 2 questions. One is, what is the most popular platform that you use? And number 2, how important are the captions? Because you said you're very visual, but do captions go a long way? Because I'm like in this space now where sometimes I put a long caption and then that does really well, but sometimes it's more visual, and then I put the editing in the video. And how do you work around all of that? And mainly TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, do you mean the caption underneath the post, or do you mean captions on the video?
Captions underneath the post.
So my
How
biggest,
scripted they are.
yeah. So my biggest platform is TikTok, and I think with TikTok it honestly depends on the video. I think if you are creating a really informative video, then a longer caption, you know, tends to like translate well and it works. But I think if you're doing, I don't know, because like for instance, when I go from through my For You page, like the captions that are normally quite short, and people do something quite like, I mean, people write something quite interesting and like thought-provoking, but like very short. And then I think on Instagram I see longer captions, and if I write more on Instagram, the video tends to do just as well. But on TikTok, I feel like even just tagging brands, so like I always tag the brands in the comment sections, not in the caption, and I found that always works better for me.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah.
I've never done that.
My biggest platform is Instagram. To be honest, my captions vary. They're quite chunky if it's skincare related or talking about ingredients, because I want to make sure people are reading as well as listening. Some people prefer listening. TikTok is very short and snappy for me. That's just what works better. And I'm always talking to camera, and TikTok can have the little on-screen captions.
And what about from a brand point of view, Ali? And because I think
Oh, really good question. I mean, the irony is that the best content on our social channels is our influencer content over our brand content, which is probably not a huge surprise. And we do change the content. I think it's really interesting, but a lot of our community come to us for information rather than the content. It's like the influencers guide them to us. So they come to know like about launch dates, ingredients, 2-for-1 promos. So it's a little bit more informative on our social channels, but looking at different brands like Soap and Glory and Sleek are doing really, really well on TikTok. And we've just invested quite a lot in TikTok for number 7 as well, because it has a very growing sort of 45 plus community that just wasn't there last year. So, I mean, I say there's a trend, or I could say there's a trend, but there really isn't. It's really changing so quickly. So yeah.
good question. Anyone else? Hi.
Hi. So basically, as a nano creator myself, I started off a year ago, and I've been trying to grow ever since, because I'm so passionate about beauty and fashion. That's basically the niche that I'm trying to run. There are hundreds and hundreds, of course, of other creators who are doing it as well, and obviously you all are standing out. So I want to know more about how do you stay on top of the trends, because I know being consistent and finding, like being at the top of your game when it comes to trends is really important. But how do you catch on, and how do you know that this is going to be like the next big trend, or are you like really responsive?
So for that, I would say look at the creators who are always like look at the creators whose videos always go viral and see how they're creating content but never replicate it, because especially on TikTok, like once somebody has done something, it's been done, and you need to find out if you want to go viral from something on TikTok, you need to be different and do something different. But you know, you can take inspiration, for example, like seeing the sounds that they're using. And a big part of our jobs is spending like 1 hour to 2 hours each day just looking through the For You. I hate scrolling constantly. Like I hate scrolling, and like before starting TikTok, I never really scrolled. So now I have to do that in order to see, you know, what's trending and how I can like use something and put it into like one of my videos or whatnot. Yeah, but just be consistent. Do like when I first started, I did 2 to 3 videos each day, and I started in sixth form. So I'd go to like the library at lunch and like edit everything, and then go back home and revise. And like, yeah, like it was a lot. But if you want to grow quickly, you've got to like do at least 1 video a day. But if you can, do 2 or 3. Yeah, and you hopefully see growth. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's dependent on the platform. Obviously, TikTok is known for trending content, so checking the For You page, looking at the trending sound, but make it relevant to what you're doing as well. Like, don't just do it because everyone else is doing it. But then make sure you have your evergreen content as well, like what people come to you for. That's what I think will create a loyal community. You want people that will truly engage with your content and will know that they can trust you.
Yes. Do you think TikTok catches on, because this is something that I've personally noticed, that TikTok catches on trends. Whatever's trending on TikTok comes on later on Instagram.
Yeah.
So do you think have you noticed that as well?
yeah, it also like YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
So I don't really do that much long form content because it just takes too long to edit alongside all my like short videos. But I do post on YouTube Shorts, and I feel like after Instagram, it then like starts trending on YouTube Shorts. So it goes like Instagram, TikTok, Instagram, then YouTube. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Hey.
What's your thoughts on like the algorithm and kind of like how to stay ahead of it? Because I know I feel like Instagram algorithm's really different to the way that TikTok works, and like, do you have any tips to kind of like stay ahead on both platforms?
I hate the algorithm personally. Like, it's the most stressful thing. It either gives me like so much like serotonin. No, what's the wrong word? What's the word when you're really happy? What's that one? Oh, is it serotonin? Yeah, it gives me really gives me either so much serotonin, or I just go into bed feeling depressed, because it's like you can spend hours on a video, and then if it doesn't do well, it's like, oh. And I feel like on Instagram, it's very consistent. Like, you know that you're going to get a certain amount of views or likes per post. But on TikTok, it's very up and down. And I think I love consistency in my life and on social media. And when it's on social media and I've spent like the other day, I was with my friend and we were filming we started filming at 1 and finished at 11 p.m. and our videos didn't do as well as I thought they would have done. And I was just like, it's just a bit disheartening. Yeah, but you've got to just remember that like everyone's feeling the same way with the algorithm, and yeah.
And I think like the whole hiding your likes thing on Instagram is really important. Like I turn mine off all the time, because don't put that pressure on yourself. You know, at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with what you're putting out there, that's the most important thing. Obviously, it's a minefield of getting into your mind, and you know, especially if you work really hard on something. But I do think that it's important to not worry about.
I wish TikTok had that feature. You can turn off the likes, you can turn off the views, you can. I don't know,
I think also for if your ambition is to work with brands later down the line as well, it's not really, of course it's about following and engagement to an extent, but it's really about quality of content, and brands are looking at that above probably everything else, especially for long-term partnerships.
To be fair, like, that's a good question for you. Like, do you care? Do you care, like, from the brand perspective, do you care less about the views of that creator, but care more about, you know, what they're creating and like who they're creating for, and like that?
It really depends on the campaign, because for a lot of our campaigns, we'll put paid spend behind it anyway. A lot of the influencers' content. Obviously, it's beneficial if you have an awareness or a reach target that you really want to hit as a brand, to work with creators who have big followings. But a lot of the time, what a brand is trying to do is get a message across. So you really want to make sure that content is doing that, and that's what you're really looking for, is creators who can really convey what that message is, especially when it comes to skincare. It's really easy with nails and artistry to really do something really quick and visual, but when it comes to skincare, it's really about breaking down those ingredients and how they work.
I think everything is about authenticity. That's what we've learned today. So I think we're going to wrap up now. Thank you so much for everyone coming, and thank you to our wonderful panel.